Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Canonical and Ubuntu. Thank you, the community, the Ubuntu community, for welcoming me here at your conference. I'm glad to be here. I am looking forward to get to know you. And I'm here to bring a bit of information about our community, the open source engineers that work in the motion picture industry, developing software of all sorts and kind. There is a strong open source undercurrent in the motion picture industry. People sometimes are surprised to hear that, but there's a reason for that, and today I'm going to give you the background. We're going to talk about a bit of the history. As Ahmed said, the motion pictures have been there for a long time and have gone through many technology disruptions over the years, technology changes, and every time the motion picture business found a way to use those new technologies to make them make better movies. And so that's what we're doing. First, however, because it's motion picture, I have a demo reel, and because it's motion picture, it's loud and it's obnoxious and everything, but we're going to show it to you right now. All right, so what you saw there is some examples, some shots that were done using our open source libraries by our member companies, the studios that make motion picture. What we're going to do today and in the next half an hour, a little bit more than that, we're going to look at open source in motion pictures, a bit more of a history. What is the Academy Software Foundation? What we do. And we're going to look in some details at the high level what our open source projects are doing and how you can participate if you are interested into dipping your toes in the motion picture business. As with open source everywhere, it's a meritocracy. It's those who do that are rising through the ranks, those who provide the code, and when it's useful, then you become a filmmaker. That's as simple as that. So every developer that works in the motion picture industry is a filmmaker. They have to think like a filmmaker for the artists that actually do the movies, and that's how we get to produce software that matters. But first, open source more generally in the motion pictures, where does it come from? So the big, of course, grandfather of all open source in a lot of industries and in motion picture as well is Linux. So the Linux operating system has been in use in the motion picture industry for more than 25 years now. The reason why the motion picture industry chose Linux is because in the early days of computer graphics, the Silicon Graphics company that was based on IRIX, their own operating system, was the provider of early graphics workstation that were producing image or able to do so. And so the motion picture industry had embraced that company products. And when the company went under, there was a choice to be made, an important choice. That was one of those moments in time where no one knew where it was going to go. The leader at the time went to all the companies having an OS and asked them if they would dedicate some resources to the motion picture industry. The fact is that the motion picture industry is not a very big industry. It's very visible because of the products that come out of it, but it's not very large. And so there was not a lot of strong commitment to the motion picture industry from the existing commercial operating system, and there was Linux. And so the studios decided that, okay, if we're going to do this, on our own, we're better choose an operating system that we can modify, adapt, and build on. And that's how the motion picture industry went with Linux. There is a lot more to say about that. There is a report that has been done. That's what I had here on this slide, the VFX Animation Studio Workstation Linux report. You can download it at the vfxplatform.com. The Visual Effects Society Technology Committee produced this. They're one of our sister organization in the motion picture industry. They're helping a lot in various aspects connected to open source. They produced that report. You can go and download it. This graph here comes from it. You can see that of all the different distribution of Linux that are used, Ubuntu is right there for a solid 10% of the use in the motion picture industry is Ubuntu. And you can find out more. Please download this report to have more information. When we come to other open source projects and libraries other than Linux, today there is a strong ecosystem of those projects, and we have a landscape, the Academy Software Foundation landscape on our website, where you can go and actually double-click on any one of those boxes that you see there that represents the various software divided in categories, open source software, and you could get down to their GitHub. It's this kind of a central switchboard where you can go see about 150 of the most relevant open source projects in the motion picture industry. I want to talk a little bit about the Science and Technology Council of the Academy of Motion Pictures. It's lesser known activity of the Academy of Motion Picture. Of course, we know the Academy for the Oscars telecast that they do every year, but there's always been a science and technology aspect to the Academy. Sometimes it has been dormant when there's periods of stability, but every time there's been a new technology that disrupted the motion picture business, the Science and Technology Council was called upon. They're kind of the Avengers that are called to come in and do the work and analyze a difficult situation. They were called when sound came to the motion picture industry in the 30s. They were called again when color became a thing in the 60s. They were called again when digital in general took over and the industry moved from shooting on film to shooting digitally. And they were called again when open source started to play a large role in the industry. This image here represents a meeting that was done in 2016. Something had happened with the open source libraries that were developed in motion picture. There were a lot of them. Some of them were critical to production, and they were extremely important, and that had grown organically. There was no coordination to it, like often is the case in open source. Engineers who believed that what they were doing It would be maddening if it was repeated 6 times, different places in the industry, and that everybody should work on this thing, would go and ask their management, I want to open source this. Sometime management said yes, sometime management said no. It depended on the management, depended on the legal folks that were approving that, their knowledge of licensing, software, etc. But a lot of software made it through, and some of it was critical, and a few maintainers left the industry to go to Silicon Valley or other places, and suddenly there was a few projects that everybody was using. There was no one at the wheel, no one was checking PRs, there was no one to maintain the project. So studios started talking about, okay, well, what do? I need to do these developments. Do I branch? Do I go and do my own thing? And which would have been terrible, and going back to the prehistory of software in the industry. So the Academy Science and Technology Council assembled this investigation that lasted 2 years to look at open source software. And to make the story short, after discovery, the investigation concluded that better support should be provided to the open source software developer in the industry. And the Academy Software Foundation was created at that time. So the foundation is a collaboration between the Academy Software Foundation and the Linux Foundation, and the goal is to provide a neutral forum for open source software in the motion picture and broader media industry, to share resources and collaborate on technology for image creation, visual effects, animation, and sound. The Linux Foundation had been an advisor. We called during the investigation to many experts about open source who could look at our situation and give us advice. The Linux Foundation proved to have a solution for us that was ready to implement. And the Linux Foundation, as you know, takes care of Linux. As you probably know, it's an umbrella now for hundreds of different foundations and projects, like the Academy Software Foundation, where they provide the infrastructure that they develop to support Linux to any other open source project that is ready to come on board. So the foundation is a collaboration between the Academy of Motion Picture and the Linux Foundation. The mission is to increase the quality and quantity of open source contribution, and to provide a governance model, a legal framework, and a community infrastructure, so that to lower the barriers to entry. Before, if you wanted to contribute to an open source project in motion picture, you really had to dig deep and in order to find out where the GitHubs were, and this was, you had to do a deep research to get there. Today, we believe we're much better. So with regards to the industry, to the higher level overview about open source and entertainment and the motion picture industry, we produced this report at report.aswf.io that gives a broader view about why we created this. And it's essentially a set of interviews with the CTOs and the technology folks who participated in creating the foundation, why we did that, what our hopes are for that, and where it goes. So I encourage you to download the report if you have some time. It's a good read. So we believe, like you believe here, that open source is a better path to technology development. And what we do at the foundation is we support the open source community by having some events. We do marketing for the project. We provide an infrastructure for the project. We do the founding for the foundations in the project, training, education, legal assistance, which is quite important in all industries, but in ours in particular. It came in one of the first things we did when we created the foundation is get the legal counsels of the studios and the vendors to the studios all in a room to agree on and educate about open source licensing, because often that was a roadblock when a project wanted to use an open source project. Many lawyers were aware and savvy in intellectual property and open source, but some were not, and it was hit and miss if projects would be approved or not. So the legal assistance part that is provided by the Linux Foundation really helped smooth the land on that level. So we do standard facilitation, open source evangelism, and more. This is the timeline of our foundation. When we started it in 2018, you can see to the left the investigation that ended in May of 2017. And then in August 2018, we had our founding event. You see the name of the companies that joined, the founders on the left side. And then you see the chronology. I'm not going to go through all of it, but the project that joined and the new members that came in and the chronology of our conferences. We have two of them, Open Source Days and Open Source Forum, that we do every year. One is with SIGGRAPH, in conjunction with SIGGRAPH, which I assume that many of you know for the computer graphics. The other one is in February as a member summit. So our membership is made of 40 companies in 3 categories. The first one, the premier, are the one that have the biggest commitment, both financially and in terms of engineers that they provide to the foundation. The premier members also have a seat on the board, and they are really the one who help decide where we're going to go next. They're my boss. They tell me what to do and where to go. They told me this year, we have to focus more on engineering contributions. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, to come and speak with you about the foundation. The general members have a lesser contribution in terms of dollars. They don't have to provide an engineer. The premier member have to provide one full-time engineer equivalent to the foundation. So that gives us already 20 engineers to start from. It doesn't have to be one single engineer. They stay at the companies that they're at, but it can be a combination of people working part-time on different projects. But we expect our premier members to be present in our lists and our Slack channels to contribute to our projects. And then we have the associate members who are other nonprofits that come to collaborate with us. We talk about all these things in terms of structure and all, but really what matters is the people, always, at any level. And this is the governing board that is directing the Academy Software Foundation today. They have a group of governing board alternates that can replace them if they cannot come to the meeting, etc. And this is the Technical Advisory Council. So these people here, they are the mind and the heart, the beating heart of the foundation. The whole foundation is structured around the engineers and to clear the way for them to do what they want to do, what they have to do, what they decide to do, and to provide support and financing and all that's needed to really remove everything that would hold them down. So really, it's the center of the foundation, and that's the structure. So the Technical Advisory Council is at the center. All the projects, we have 15 of them right now, are each one of them have a technical steering committee with a chair. All those people meet every 2 weeks to talk about the business of the technology business of the foundation. Every project does a yearly review that takes a number of those meetings, and all the action is at the Technology Advisory Council level. The governing board is there to provide the financing, to provide the structure, the legal aspect of things. We have an outreach committee that does marketing and the events that I mentioned, and they all together we work to the betterment of open source in general and our project in particular. We also developed a CI platform. We have a CI working group that has been hard at work to develop one platform where all of our projects would be developed from, because each one of these projects came from a studio or a vendor that had their own built infrastructure. It was important to develop one that is open source itself and that can be embraced by smaller studios who want to start developing open source software themselves and contributing. And so we do that as well. So our projects, I put this QR code here because I'm going to talk at a high level, and you may find that I'm not getting into enough details. So if you go to that link here, you can go straight to all of our projects and you can check their GitHub. You can go as deep as you'd like. So I invite you to check this out as I'm talking. If I'm boring you with the presentation, please dig into the project themselves. I will bring that back at the end of this segment once we have so you can get back to it if there's something here that you want to find out more about. So these are our 15 projects that have been added over time. They each one participate in one particular aspect or another of motion picture development. And so now I'm going to go into what they do. So OpenVDB was developed by DreamWorks. It won an Academy Technical Achievement Award. I forgot to mention that there is, of course, the Academy Awards that everybody know, but there's also the Science and Technology Council holds a separate event where the technology is given award. You see it at the Academy Award telecast for a few minutes. They do a summary. And so many of our projects have won Technical Achievement Award in that particular ceremony. Was the first project donated to the Academy Software Foundation, the first project to graduate. It's a library for volumetric transport of volumetric data, simulation, and animated volumes. The key contributors, you can see the list. It was given by DreamWorks, and a lot of others came to it because of the value that it brings. I have a video here that I would like to show you. Talking about OpenVDB, NanoVDB, and NeuralVDB. Let's have a look.
OpenVDB has grown beyond its Academy Award-winning entertainment use cases into medical imaging, industrial manufacturing and design, scientific computing and visualization, robotics, and machine learning applications. Whereas OpenVDB uses a hierarchical tree structure, NeuralVDB introduces neural representations of both values and the underlying tree structure. This dramatically reduces the volume's memory footprint, allowing users to interact with extremely large and complex volumetric datasets in real time, as well as transmit and share them more efficiently. NeuralVDB also carries over the GPU acceleration of NanoVDB, which NVIDIA introduced in 2021. While these side-by-side examples look identical, the memory footprint of the NeuralVDB representation is up to 100 times smaller. To speed up training by up to 2x, NeuralVDB allows the weights of the previous frame to be used for the subsequent frame. NeuralVDB also enables temporal coherency, or smooth encoding, by using the network result from the previous frame. This reduces the need for post-production effects like motion blur.
This is part of a longer video. This was produced by NVIDIA, one of our big supporters at the Academy Software Foundation. And so OpenVDB is an example of technology that was developed for the movies. And there's been a lot of those for visualization and for the rendering of photoreal content, which was the goal of the software, many software development in the motion picture industry. It branched out to become used in a lot of other industries. Now, this is the sort of marketing description of OpenVDB. Now, I have a video that was produced by the engineers of OpenVDB as a song. Okay, so I'm going to play that now.
Listen to this song and you reach divinity. Be the victor you can win if you proclaim with glee. VDB will set you free.
If you're a volume hippie and you love your VDBs, listen to this song and you reach divinity. Be the victor you can win if you proclaim with glee. VDB will set you free. Drop a VDB node and a VDB activates. Fill it up with values, you have taken your first step to make your VDBs become one volume again. Run VDB combine or maybe the VDB merge. VDB from polygons to build your SDFs. VDB reshape will plug any hole you have left. VDB rebuild to fix the collision mistakes. And VDB convert to make them polygons again. If you're a volume hippie and you love your VDBs, listen to this song and you'll reach divinity. Be the victor you can win if you proclaim with glee. VDB will set you free. If you think VDB is pointless, you must try this node. VDB convert points will unlock a brave new world. VDB points group selects and points delete removes. If you know VDBX, you can run all the code. If you are into fracturing, we have you covered too. For the VDB fracture will allow you to cut through. VDB disperse and scatter all your fracture points. The VDB workflow's here to never disappoint. If you're a volume hippie and you love your VDBs. Listen to this song and you'll reach divinity. Be the victor you can win if you proclaim with glee. Veni Vidi Vici VDB will set you free.
So this video goes on for 6 minutes. So you're welcome to check it out on YouTube. Search for VDB Hippie. So I'm sorry if all the details of related. It's sort of an inside job in terms of what VDB is, but it talks about. It's a good way to do documentation. Yeah, and we're thinking about doing it for other projects like this, moving forward. But it shows you the kind of enthusiasm we have for, and our engineers have for the projects. I don't have a video like this for all the projects, but I thought I would show you this one. So continuing on into other projects, so VDB was about volumetric data, and if you got that from the description, if you render a simulation for volume data, it takes a very long time. But if you can bake it, which is what VDB does, into cloud information, then you can manipulate it and pass it on between different applications much faster. So that's VDB. OpenColor.io, it's this. Now we're moving into the color space. So when you're making movies, of course, the color of everything you do is very important. The color space and what artists actually see while they're into production is essential. So it's very important that different artists on different software don't see different shade of green or colors like that. I'm going to, I think this video here doesn't have sounds. I'll do the commentary. So this is an example that shows the layering that happens in motion pictures whenever there's complex shot. So the scenes and the shots in motion picture will have live action element, background plates. It'll have 3D elements. It'll have green screen that'll be worked on. All of these things happen in different software and different workstation. We see it in 3 seconds here, but it's really taking a long time, and different artists work on different parts. So what OpenColor.io provides is a set of tools to essentially calibrate everything in the pipeline. Not only the screens, of course, we know about screen calibration and color calibration of screens, but the software that are being used to make the movies, every steps of the pipeline. So it provides profiles and the color science for a consistent pipeline. It was developed at Sony Picture Imageworks, joined in 2019, and has also won an Academy Technical Achievement Award. You'll see that as a team. Today, there's all these contributors. One of the things they do that you may be interested into, if you're interested in color science, they started the Color Interrupt Forum to bring the color scientists and the people interested in color of the industry together. That's a forum that meets every 2 weeks. I'll show you how to get to all of our forum, the information about our meetings. You're welcome to join that. And they're working on a new lightweight version to enable browser usage and other benefits. OpenEXR. OpenEXR, how many of you know about OpenEXR? Can I have a show of hand? Yes, a few, that's good, thank you, appreciate that. OpenEXR is a high dynamic range image format. It was, in fact, it's the grandfather of our open source projects. It was developed by ILM, made open source in 1999, won an Academy Technical Achievement Award, and joined the foundation in 2019. The high dynamic range image processing and transport is what it does. And essentially, when you make a movie and you pass image information between all these different stations, the layers that we've seen, you want to pass them at the highest possible dynamic range and resolution, etc. And that's what OpenEXR does, and maintain the uncompressed value of all the images across the pipeline. It's widely adopted. Currently, the project goal number 1 is to maintain a rock-solid implementation of this library that is used by everybody on every movies everywhere. So it cannot fail. There cannot be new development that break it. And so that's sort of our fortress project that is handled by Carrie Phillips, one of the person in our industry that's been there and caring for the project for a long time. OpenQ. So now we're moving into the massive amount of frames that need to be rendered when you make a movie. Not only you have to render all the frames, you know, a motion picture has generally between 1,500 and 2,000 shots in them. A live action movie, this is all live action. But very often, certainly visual effects movies, all the shots have visual effects in them. And all these shots have layers, as we've seen in some of these videos. And so that is thousands upon thousands of frames that need to be rendered. There's always a long time to render in those frames, no matter how much compute and cloud and everything else goes into overdrive and how much computer gets faster, etc. The people of the motion picture industry always find a way to use all that power, and the rendering is still an hour a frame at the end of the day. So a render manager is very important to manage all of that, and that's what OpenQ was developed at Sony Picture Imageworks as an internal render farm called Q3. With a collaboration with Google Cloud, it was released as open source when it joined at the foundation. So it's a fully featured render manager. The contributors of the company that you can see there, so it's like Imageworks, Google, Netflix, Microsoft, Amazon, and it's been used on those movies, Suicide Squad, Kingsman, Jumanji, Hotel Transylvania, The Meg, I like The Meg. Anyone here like The Meg? And Venom, Men in Black, the Angry Bird movie, the Mitchells vs. the Machine, Thor, Love and Thunder, all the Spider-Man movies, and many more. So it's a rock-solid render management system. So if you ever get yourself in a place where you face rendering a lot of images or a lot of tasks, a lot of compute, you can use OpenQ to distribute them on a large number of machines, either on-premise or in the cloud. So this is a short video that shows a bit of the interface of OpenQ and the layering that happens. By the way, this shot also shows VDB in action. You couldn't do a travel like this on a live simulation. So you see the layers, and you see here in the case of the Spider-Verse movies with this kind of style that goes beyond 2D animation and 3D animation, all the layers that need to manage. This on the Jumanji movie shows the live action plates in the background, the added elements in the foreground, the ostriches and whatever happens. And so in a shot like this, many layers need to be rendered separately and then combined. OpenQ does that. Open Timeline I/O is about editorial timeline. So whenever you do a software that is about motion, about video, you have a timeline. And the number of timelines that have been rewritten is staggering. If you look at every software out there, from After Effects and the Avid timeline, and there is every software in the motion picture industry has a timeline. It's about time that there is a library that people could use if they have to build a timeline to include in their software without having to do it themselves again and having yet another timeline. So Open Timeline I/O was created by Pixar, joined in 2019. It's an open source interchange format for editorial timeline for the management of clip information, timing, tracks, transition, metadata. It's currently working on spatial transform to allow editors to share visual composition across editing software. So it's really kind of the common ground of editorial timeline. Open shading language is describing material, lights, displacement, and pattern generation. It's a language. It's a de facto standard in the industry for situations where shaders need the renderer to provide information or perform a task from within the shader is what they're working on now. So with the advent of GPU, a lot of the compute that was at the renderer level has moved to the shader level that can reside on the GPU. So open shading language is developing in that direction now with functions that are supplied by the renderer as LLVM bitcode and potentially compiled directly into the shaders themselves. If you're interested in any of that, please join us. MaterialX, open standard for representing rich materials. We have a few projects around shaders and materials. So this came from ILM. It's representing rich material and look development in computer graphics. It joined in 2021, and these are the contributors. The thing to say about Material X is that the team is very actively working with the OpenUSD ecosystem. OpenUSD, how many of you know about USD? Yes, good, that's good. USD is an open source library that is not part of the foundation. It's at Pixar, but it's a very important one that Pixar is keeping for its own good reasons, but we are supporting that effort the best we can. Material X is developing as the material component of USD within the foundation. Res manage packages. So when you have this environment where you have lots of different software in a studio that needs to be customized and installed in different workstations, and certain artists require a certain stack of software, Res is there to come to the rescue of the IT folks and to allow essentially to build a setup package for any workstation at any time, and that includes the versioning of different software that needs to be brought to install on machines. So they're currently working on remote package repositories, a cornerstone of their future Res install command to build an entire tool chain on the fly. And they're also following closely the VFX reference platform guidelines that I mentioned earlier in the talk. DeepL, now we're moving into content. So there was a lack of content to be able to test software, particularly at vendors that provide software to the motion picture industry. DeepL was created to provide a place where professional content that was done in the motion picture could be shared and used for educational, for academia, and for testing. It's a vendor-neutral hosting platform, and you can find some of the assets here that are in DeepL currently, and they're currently considering the inclusion of interactive 3D web viewer to help grow the library and increase engagement. Raw to ACES. So there is a project called ACES, which is one of the projects outside the foundation, but an important one, another one that we support actively because we support the community. Raw to ACES is a component, or a component of that is there to convert digital camera raw files to containers with image data according to the ACES, the Academic Color Encoding Specification project that was done by the Science and Technology Council of the Academy. So the key contributors are the Academy themselves and Weta Digital. OpenFX, an API. So when the 2D phase of our motion picture industry got underway in motion picture and also in commercials and short form, there were softwares like Flame and others before that that were doing image processing. And if you wanted, as a third-party vendor, develop a plugin for any one of those, you had to use the API of that particular application. Nothing unexpected there. However, there was, over time, a number of those software that developed, and the third parties had to redevelop their software a number of times on the various APIs for the various applications. OpenFX is a mid-layer there that allows, if you develop for OpenFX, then your plugin will work for all of the various applications. It's a common interface for image-based visual effects, has a lot of supporters, and is in a number of products like Assimilate, Scratch, Filmlight, Baselight, and Flame, etc. And they released a new version in July 2024. That was a project that was quite stable. It had not updated for a number of years before it joined the foundation. But when it joined, it found a number of reasons to update a number of its components, and released just recently. OpenAsset.io. OpenAsset.io is a project that joined in Sandbox at the foundation. So when a project joins, there's essentially 3 stages that it joins at. The first one is Sandbox, which most projects join there. This is the place where a project comes from the wild world outside, and it gets there to be at a minimum cleaned up and make sure that all the licensing and the code is all right until it comes to be adopted. But sometimes there are projects that are I would say, advanced ideas about something that should be done. And Open Asset IO was that there had been a prototype and a design that had been done, and they moved to the foundation in Sandbox to develop that idea further. The TAG, the Technical Advisory Council, judged that this was a worthy project to be developed, and they provided the Sandbox environment for them to develop further. It does here, what you see was the first project to join the foundation, and it's there to make the connection between asset management system and the systems like USD, for instance. The Open Review Initiative. So something happened at the pandemic. At the pandemic time, everybody, before the pandemic, when project, movie, motion pictures were reviewed, they were reviewed in a theater, a small theater, with motion picture grade projectors, motion picture grade sound. This is where, when the visual effects and animation facilities were looking at shots, they would gather people once a day, and they would go and look at all the new shots and make notes and send people to do their work. At the pandemic, all of that stopped, and people ended up at home, like everywhere else, and the review process became done on home computers and screens. So all the quality projection systems went away, and that created a complete redesign of the review systems in the industry. At that time and after, the Open Review Initiative was started to assemble a number of components that could be the base of a next generation open review system. And there was 2 donations to the project. One was RV from Autodesk, commercial software that they worked hard to make open source. It became OpenRV. And X Studio, a review system that was at DNEG, that was also donated to the foundation. Within these 2 projects, the Open Review Initiative now is to building a unified tool set for playback review and approval of motion pictures and related professional media. Autodesk contributed RV, as I said, and DNEG X Studio. They're currently working on establishing a real-time cross-product collaboration for image review, exploring optimized encoding and decoding of video media. And OpenImageIO. OpenImageIO is a library for reading and writing files. An emphasis on formats and functionality used for professional large-scale film production. It's used extensively in the VFX and animation world, and they're currently working on a set of Rust bindings and Python wheels that will allow PyPI install with single command. Our last one, maybe you're happy, we're at the last project, OpenAPV, just joined, donated by Samsung. OpenAPV is an advanced professional video codec that provides reference implementation of the APV codec. Samsung is coming with their long-standing commitment to open source. Samsung is a company that uses Android for their phone and ties in an open source operating system for their television. They have open source at the core of their operation. And they thought that bringing APV to the foundation would be the right place for them to learn from the community of the motion picture industry what is needed to really bring OpenAPV at the level that they want it to be. So, besides the project, we have a number of working groups, and I'm going to speed up because time is running out. A CI working group, I've already mentioned it. A diversity and inclusion working group that is doing excellent work. A USD working group where the community for USD that resides at Pixar comes to talk about USD. And a language interrupt project. The DI working group is doing every year a summer learning program, amongst other things, that prepares individuals from underrepresented community to get a job in film and media and entertainment. On the right side there is an example of what the graduates of the summer learning program, the jobs that they got inside the industry. You can keep an eye on that. And the CI working group is working on the 2025, aligning with the 2025 VFX reference platform. And the USD working group has a Slack channel with more than 1,000 participants. part of the vibrant community around USD, and we have a new Zero Trust working group ramping up activities. This is over time, the PR that were open each year for all of our projects. As you can see, it goes before the foundation of the foundation of our Academy Software Foundation, because the project existed then. You can see that in 2019 there was a big spike and has been sustained ever since. The cumulative open issues each year, we see the growth there, and that was our project. Now again, here's the QR code that was there before. So if you want to go into more details on any of the project, don't hesitate. And we also do events. We have a conference called Open Source Days that comes at SIGGRAPH. We also have the Open Source Forum that is happening in February, very soon. That is more of a member-oriented conference. You can find on our YouTube channel the recording of all the presentations that we've done at our conferences, the most recent one being Open Source Days in Denver, and we have a whole number of presentations, including full updates on the projects that you can go see if any of them interest you. We just started a new conference a new event called Dev Days, where there was the second year. The first year was a bootstrap effort. Dev Days is really a hackathon. It's a way to come in for people who have not contributed to any of our project yet to do their first contribution and to get familiar with the environment and where all of our projects are, or the participating projects are ready to support newcomers. We are very welcoming environment, so this will happen. We're right into the debriefing of Dev Days that was set as an annual event. It will, it for sure will be in the spring, and we're looking at making it more of a continuous event as opposed to a one-time-a-year event, so that we have all the tools and the ability to welcome developers who are interested in contributing into projects from the motion picture industry. So how to contribute? I'm not going to read all of that, but you can go into that link at the bottom, tac.aswf.io/engagement. You will be able to join our list. You can join our Slack channel. I'll have that on the next slide. These are our mailing list. And if you want to join our Slack channel, this is the QR code to grab. It's going to be valid only for a week. So if you have any interest to come in, please don't hesitate. And I want to thank you for having me and staying for the overview about the Academy Software Foundation. Thank you. I'm looking forward to be here at the Ubuntu Summit with you and getting to know you. And don't hesitate if you want to join us or to come and work with us. We'd be glad to have you participate in our movie-making activities. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if we have time for questions. Do we? Any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
I'm here with my technical author colleagues, so I think we're all a bit intrigued about your novel paradigm for documentation that you mentioned earlier.
That's
but
good.
I also wanted to ask about something that was mentioned very, very briefly in one of the videos, that the software that was developed for the motion picture industry is being used in medical research.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it just went by very quickly, but can you say anything more about that, or other examples of unexpected usages of things that you're producing here?
Oh, yes. So it's actually a big trend, and it has been one about software developed from the motion picture industry, that it's been reused in all the other industries after that, because the engineers of the motion picture industry, when computer became a thing, computer graphics, had to aim at developing photoreal imagery that match the live action footage, right? So a lot of the algorithms for rendering photoreal anything, photoreal glass, photoreal, car, paint, photoreal human flesh, to animate characters. Jurassic Park was the first time ever that there was a computer animated creature. All those technologies, and the motion picture industry is a very open industry by nature. At SIGGRAPH every year, the studio go to present the algorithms that they've been using openly, and so those have been picked up all over. And it's fair to say that the big part of the visualization industry in the world, the Bayes algorithm have been developed in the motion picture industry to start with. So that's something that is a major trend. If you're looking at particular software that are being used in other industry today, so OpenVDB is one. I mentioned USD a number of times, Universal Scene Description. So there's a big push at the moment to take USD, which is the back-end data management system that Pixar used to do all of their movies, a very sophisticated system. Now there's been a lot of discussion about using USD for VR applications in gaming, for using USD in the car industry, for using it into all of those other industries that have huge database of content, and that require, in this specific case, the ability to make modification and remember what you modified. When you make a movie, there's notes, there's all kinds of things that accumulates over time, and sometimes the director will say, you have to go back from the version for 2 weeks ago, and you have to be able to do that instantly, to undo all the things that have been done since 2 weeks and go back to that version that the director liked at that time. So USD is able to do that, and as it turns out, that happens in all industries, that you have a big database of representation of a building or a car, and you want to track all of the details. So that's another example, but often the algorithms have been used in many places.
Thank you.
You're welcome, please. Yeah, thank you.
So 2 quick comments and then a question.
Okay.
One, thank you very much for the reference platform, the VFX reference platform. As a student, seeing what actually is used in industry, when I was studying computer graphics, I could look at tools and be like, oh, that's a thing that's worth looking at. That was great.
You're welcome. I will pass your thank you to the visual effects technical committee.
And a big thank you especially to the OpenVDB. I switched to using that, and it was, their marching cubes was like 30 times faster than the random file that I'd been using before for that. So that was great too.
I'm glad it works.
My question is there a good open alternative to VBX? Or sorry, not VBX, FBX?
FBX. So FBX has done, a good job in the industry for a long time, and there's a consensus, including from Autodesk, who is the owner of FBX, that now the next generation will be through USD. Yeah, the USD and the OpenUSD. The work that's being done right now to essentially by Pixar and others to take USD as it is at Pixar and make it open and develop a lot of tools around it. There's actually a foundation, the Alliance for OpenUSD, if you're interested in that you should track. It's a sister foundation from our Academy Software Foundation, and they focus only on USD, making it a specification so that other industries, as the previous question was, so that other industries can use USD, not just in software, but also in hardware, in compute, and implement USD. So a much more flexible system at large than FBX was. FBX is great. FBX is a great tool to essentially bake a scene and pass it on between a software and another. It does what it does very well. But if you're talking about massive, production level database, USD is going to be it.
So that can also scale down as well, though, to the smaller?
Yes, there is also all kind of tools in USD. There is a sub component of USD like USDZ, USDC that are packaging of USD components. So have a look. It's extremely flexible, but it's also able to carry data on phones and on compute that has less resources than a motion picture studio. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David.